Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records. And last night I went to Belleville, Illinois to see Jim Messina for the first time. Jim Messina and the Roadrunners, they played at a theater called the Lincoln Theater that was built in 1921. It's kind of an old just movie theater, really. Small, just one floor, no balcony. Belleville, Illinois is about 15 miles from St. Louis into Illinois. Fun fact on Belleville, home of Jimmy Connors, tennis legend, home of Kevin Von Erich, if you remember the 70s and 80s wrestling scene. And both Jeff Tweedy and Jay Farrar from Uncle Tupelo, of course, they went on to do Wilco and Sunbolt. Anyway, Jim Messina, I knew him from Buffalo Springfield when I first got into college, got into Buffalo Springfield, and I've seen Neil Young and seen Stephen Stills, and last year I finally saw Richie Fura. So seeing Messina was a way to kind of close that circle. Also, I'm a huge Poco fan. In fact, Messina was born in 1942 in Los Angeles, California, and he does work on the last Buffalo Springfield album, then leaves to find, when the band breaks up in 68, to found Poco with Rusty Young and others. Their second album is one of my favorites, and it does have the great song, You Better Think Twice, which was written by Jim. Where is Jim? There's Jim. Right next to Richie. So that's Jim Messina. Anyway, as far as the Loggins and Messina stuff, I'm not all that familiar with it. Obviously, I know Danny's song, and I know Pooh's Corner and Angry Eyes and things like that. I remember my parents saying that they saw him in Las Vegas, I think, in the 70s, which didn't necessarily help me want to get into Loggins and Messina because it was my parents seeing a concert, right? Anyway, last night was awesome. I had a friend that was going to maybe go with me. He had to back out because of work stuff. So I did the trek alone. And I remember driving over there. I'm like, man, Jim's 77. I'm going to a concert by myself. Man, I feel like a loser. And I hope this is going to be great. It was. And we're going to get into it song by song. Because I was by myself, and because I didn't have people on either side and nobody behind me in this small theater, even though it was a well-attended concert, I was able to dim my cell phone, my iPhone, if you will, and take some notes. God, that's dorky to take notes at a concert, but I did. Anyway, as far as Loggins and Messina is concerned, after Jim leaves Poco after the second album and one live album, he gets a contract with Columbia Records as kind of an independent producer. I think he has a chance to produce Dan Fogelberg, and then he's presented with the idea of maybe listening to this kid, Kenny Loggins, and some of his songs. In December of 1970, Loggins comes over to Messina's house there in California, plays some Danny's song, plays some Return to Pooh Corner. Next thing you know, they're working together on Kenny Loggins albums, and Clive Davis, producer, or the guy that's running Columbia Records, says, why don't you call it Sitting In with Kenny Loggins. They then become a duo as Loggins and Messina. So he was going to produce it, but he ends up producing it and being a member of this band. Last night was great. Let's get into the track list. These are from my notes, so some of this is kind of stream of consciousness. I went back later and found out who these musicians were. It was a 5-piece band with guitar and vocals by Jim Messina himself. Jim Frazier was playing keyboards. Jack Bruno on drums, who I found out was Tina Turner's drummer from 81 to 09. Awesome drummer. He's also played with Joe Cocker and Elton John. Ben King, younger guy, I think in his 30s, on bass, playing a Fender bass, kind of a Robin eggshell blue Fender jazz bass or precision. And then the great Steve Nieves on percussion, saxophone, flute, alto, any kind of percussion instruments, congas, bongos. He was the star of the show, and we'll get into this set list. He opened up with a 1972 off the second Loggins Messina album, Thinking of You. And these are my notes. Phenomenal vocals. Frazier on keys is singing backup, 5-piece band. The next song is Watching the River Run, which is another Loggins and Messina song. Nieves is now on flute. Goes from kind of congas to flute. He's a multi-instrumentalist. There's some finger picking on acoustic. The first two songs see Jim Messina on acoustic guitar. I'm already kind of marveling at how good of a guitar player Messina is. Bass player Ben King's got that precision Fender. Here's something that Jim says about him. He says he's an old soul, and his grand passion for this music is what really makes his bass playing perfect for the band. Messina also says this about his band, Jim Messina and the Roadrunners, that I've been touring for over 50 years, Messina says, praising the Roadrunners. I've never in my life had a band so capable and cohesive. And right away, you're getting that. We then, after Watching the River Run, we get Return to Pooh's Corner. Of course, famously sung by Kenny Loggins. Just sweet vocals, though, by Jim. And Jim can give you that Loggins kind of range. Not as sweet of a voice as Kenny Loggins has, but he can get those notes. And it was a great version. And I'm realizing early on that this set list is following the most recent live album by Jim Messina and the Roadrunners called Here, There, and Everywhere Live. Came out in April. I highly recommend that. In fact, the show is basically that set list, minus a couple songs. More flute here on Pooh's Corner by Nieves. He was a jack of all trades. How do you loosen the jar from the nose of a bear? Maybe a gummy. That's what I did. Back in the day, he said, Messina, after the song, people would pass around buckets of Reds and everybody would sit in the audience all stoned, he said. He also made a joke about nowadays you can get surgery for everything, for your lips and your face and your butt. He's like, I had some liposuction. He said, I had some injections into my gut. And you know, his thing and shtick on stage, even when coming out, it's like he's seeing old friends. And the clientele at the concert goers were older. They were older than me. And you got the sense that they had seen him in the 70s and that they don't miss a Jim Messina show. And he has such a comfort in seeing his old friends. And it just really feels like his old friends are there. Next song was Danny's song, of course. Again, even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. Just heavenly vocals. He let the crowd sing the first chorus. His acoustic playing is great. His voice is great. Great arrangement. Just really nailed it. Kind of picked up the tempo at the last chorus when he did the third and final chorus. Beautiful. He then told the story about, he said, 15 years ago, I wrote this song when I moved to Nashville. And then the keyboard player came over and said, and he whispered in his ears, like, I mean 30 years ago. And really it was 33 years ago. He moved to Nashville from California. He met a guy named Kent Robbins right when he got there. And Kent said, you want to maybe write some songs with me? This is like 93, 92. And Jim said, sure. He's like, when? He's like, how about tomorrow? So they sat down and wrote a song called Mexican Minutes. And Brooks and Dunn ended up making a huge hit out of that song. Nieves is now on maracas and congas and wind chimes. And you get this airy, breezy Mexican thing going on. Then Jim picks up his Stratocaster, a black Strat, and plays Better Think Twice again off the second Poco album. And just boom. I mean, the harmonies were great. The mix was great. I let out a roar after that song because he's nailing it. And I'm realizing, I wasn't sure if I should go to this show. And over the years, I've had chances to see Jim Messina. I'm like, well, do I like him enough to spend $50? Is it going to deliver the goods? But in the past, I've always gone to these type of shows because you don't know what you don't know. And you don't realize that this guy, Jim Messina, is now been personalized. And he's now a personality that you won't forget. And they'd killed the song. And knowing that he wrote that song and he sang it was great. Listen to a country song off the Loggins and Messina debut is next. He sounded like a Sienna burst strat. Nieves is on the washboard now. Some straight kind of country style piano. These guys are killing it. Killer sax solo. So Nieves goes from playing the washboard to picking up a sax and killing a solo there. Jim's answering on single note guitar. Jim's got a great feel around the guitar. He's not flashy, but his notes are well thought of. Mama Don't Dance is next. I'm not a big fan of that song. I ended up getting a Bud Light and coming back, which was just right behind me to get the beer. But they did a great version. Another huge saxophone solo. Get out of the car, long hair. New and Different Way was next off of 1979's Oasis solo album. Breezy, R&B, more sax, yacht rock. Kenny Loggins goes on to define what yacht rock is, but really Jim Messina is playing the style of music of the late 70s, which is some R&B with great musicians on it, and this was awesome. There was a Regal Beagle setting on the synth tone for that song. Loved it, just smooth. Loving You Every Minute off his 1981 album. Messina was next. Timpanis on guitar where you're hitting those things like Santana. Nieves is doing that now. Salsa, band's cooking. The drummer is strong. Drummer being Jack Bruno again. More congas. Then they did kind of a medley of some songs. Loving Me, To Make a Woman Feel Wanted, and Peace of Mind. All Loggins and Messina songs next. Just great. And I wrote in my notes that the band must be from Nashville. Because going into last night, I didn't know who these members were. I researched them later. Yeah, the band's from Nashville, and that's why they were so good. This band, like Jim says, it's the most capable and excellent band he's ever been with. And that's not hyperbole. This band was amazing. And with Jim still sounding great at 77, you're getting all you want from this guy. Anyway, Peace of Mind's a nice kind of ballad, nice version. Sax is going back. Nieves is coming down to the front of the stage and going back up to the percussion rack and coming down and playing congas and hitting little small sections of sax. I mean, he's doing it all. He's the all-star of the show, really, besides Jim. Messina is going back and forth with the sax. They're dueling each other. At one point, Jim whispers into Nieves' phone while he's got the saxophone, and then Nieves just goes crazy a cappella saxophone solo for like 45 seconds. Not longer than that. Just nails this crazy avant-garde almost solo. Then he goes back up and he's doing harmonies and singing, and there's a crescendo at the end that's breathtaking. Then he does band intros. Then he plays the song Be Free from 1974's Loggins and Messina album Motherlode. Jim's playing a 1912 mandolin and flute. Harmonies are again. The mandolin's kind of tripping me out at this point. The alto sax now. Nieves is on alto sax with keyboards. Amazing solo on the mandolin by Messina. Just a journey through Celtic lands far away is what I wrote during the moment last night on my notes. Unbelievable. Then back into Be Free. Then we get the classic Angry Eyes from 1972. Now Jim's on a white Stratocaster. There's congas. I bet you wish you could cut me down with those Angry Eyes. This band's incredible again. I'm high, but I wrote this. I'm high, but this band is incredible. Jim jams lightly over ride cymbal and keys, glassy notes from his Strat. So he's got the Strat, and we know for guitar players, you can get those glassy single notes out of the Strat, but then the keyboard player's got the Fender Rhodes, and he's hitting these glassy notes, and it's just like these glass drippings and rain drippings. The nuance there, the nuance of he knows how good his band is, and they can actually play within the music. It was awesome. Then they break back into the main riff of the song. And then there's another saxophone that comes in briefly. Then back to the original song. Now, during Angry Eyes Still, he's gone from saxophone back to flute. And he teases Black Magic Woman on the flute. Then there's a long flute solo. Then back into the main riff of Angry Eyes. Just an epic song, an epic show. I think they took one off the stage for like a minute, came back. I think the song was called You Need a Man as the encore, and then I did leave. I don't think they played anything else after that. I know this review is long. Last night was amazing. Check out my channel. We talk about great music every single day here. Peace out. See ya.